Hey, everybody, I don't know about you, but as you've watched out over the world, the war in Russia and Ukraine is not just isolated to Eastern Europe. It's spread all over the world, and you can see it in market instabilities. You can see it here. People who do not think that that war is affecting you, all you got to do is look at gas prices. You look at your food prices. You see the global change that has happened. But you know something that's also affected investments as well. And I've said all along, legacy precious metals is your navigator. They're the ones that see you through to get to the next level. The good news about this is even with market volatility, market instability, you've got options. And gold prices are rising as investors turn to gold. And gold presents a hedge against this inflation and that protects you against the weakening dollar, which we are seeing. Legacy Precious Metals is the only company I trust to deal with gold and silver and the other precious metals. You need this investment. You need this as part of your portfolio to keep you buffered from what we're seeing in the world, war and volatility in the market. This is where you need to be. Call Legacy Precious Metals today. Be proactive about this. Get on board with it. Call them at 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can download their free investor's guide at legacypminvestments.com. legacypminvestments.com, your navigator in a volatile world of investments.
Do you want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered, and this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun.
All right, everybody, it's Doug Collins. Welcome back to the Doug Collins Podcast. Again, with one of my favorite guests on the Doug Collins Podcast because we get to talk football. We get to talk life. We get to talk great things as we got going. And today we're getting started because, football season is in the air. You can start. The training camps have already started. There's already been a Hall of Fame game, which, by the way, the Raiders did well in. Just to throw that in for everybody. Just wanted to make sure. But also football in colleges is going as well. And we're going to start today on college. We're going to have, like I said, we got Chan Gailey here, coach extraordinaire, both pro level, college level, just a great guy that you've gotten to know here on the podcast. And today is going to be about college football. We may throw in a little bit of pro football, but we're going to hit college. Going to have Chan back in a few weeks, and we'll get started after the pro football season starts as well. But Chan, welcome back to the Doug Collins Podcast.
Thanks, Doug. It's always great to be with you, and looking forward to the day we get to talk a little football.
It is. Chan, what about it? The day like today when you actually sit back and sort of look at this and, say, is this coach? And then back when you played down Florida and this is the time of the year you get sort of excited, isn't it?
Oh, very much so. And, this is the time of year everybody thinks this is the year. This is our year. We're going to get it done this year. Everybody thinks that. So it's a great opportunity for the young men that play the game, young men and women. I guess there's probably a few ladies that are playing somewhere, but it's a great opportunity because everybody's excited. Coaches and players are excited, and alumni. They're all excited right now.
Well, and that leads us really, into looking at this right now. Of course, down here in Georgia, of course, you've been around. Everybody's, sort of enjoying the last 30 days of the Dogs national title and getting ready to start that off. But already the talk's out there, and there's so much to get into. We're going to get into the actual teams here. But I want your just sort of candid take because, if you listen to sports radio, you listen to the college, there's a lot going on right now in college football. And from your time coaching there, it's changed, hadn't it, Chan? I mean, with the introduction of the name, image, and likeness, with the introduction of this portal situation, is there a concern, and we'll get into the specifics of both those, but I just want to ask a general question. Is there a concern that all of a sudden with some of these issues and the NCAA not doing anything to really rein it in right now, that in some ways the college football is becoming a minor league? And I'm not saying it's a minor league, but there's this sort of idea that it's more like a pro kind of ball because of what we're seeing with this.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's been taken for granted for years that college football is the NFL's minor league system, but there was somebody else controlling it that had some idea about, okay, let's keep the character part involved. Let's keep the education part involved. Let's not let these guys feel like they're just straight semi-pro guys. But in the last few years, we have taken this thing, Doug, to it's full-blown semi-pro. We're paying the guys. Some of them will make more, to be honest with you, some of them will make more in college than they will in the NFL, because you're guessing, you're paying these guys and guessing what they're going to be worth. And that is a tough situation for colleges right now.
Well, and it's interesting. And I heard this statement the other day, and I love a head coach perspective on this. I heard it talked about that every coach coming out of the media days, and you've done media days with ACC and others. You did that coming through and up. They get these coaches in, and it was almost every coach started this way. Well, it's really good for the players. I'm happy for them. But, we're struggling to find our new niche. And they were being kind. Now, 2 months ago, Saban wasn't kind. Saban just came out and flat said that, which I thought was really interesting, that Texas A&M just bought their whole class. But, yeah, are coaches put in a bad position with this? And just sort of what's your take on, what's being done and said right now?
Well, it's awful. And the thing that's happened with this is we're tearing at the fabric of society, which I think probably was a little bit of the plan anyway. Loyalty is a big part of the fabric of our society.
Right.
Finding loyalty somehow, some way to something that has virtue. And college athletics had virtue for a while. And now there's no loyalty anywhere. Guys go anywhere they want to go at any time they want to go for the money. So there's no loyalty to the old, red and black, right, or the old gold and white, or the whatever it might be. There's no loyalty anymore. And what we're teaching everybody is the almighty dollar is what's the most important thing, and loyalty to a belief and loyalty to something bigger than yourself is not important at all anymore.
And that is so important. You know Coach Saban very well. I know y'all play, you talked about playing golf. Did it surprise you with, and again, I've heard a different scenario. It surprised everybody when he really sort of called out Jimbo Fisher, and all of a sudden Jimbo bowed up and said, this, I know the backstory. He's really not what, and back and forth. Then it sort of calmed down. But then I started hearing from some folks that he sort of popped out at Jimbo a little bit, but it was also a backdoor, swipe at his own donors to say, hey, it's time to pony up some more because I've got to compete in this. What do you think?
I think that Saban is a little bit old school in that he believes that if you're good, that you shouldn't have to buy them, but he's realizing now that that's the game, and you're going to have to play the game. And maybe it was a little bit of that. Maybe he was taking a swipe at the NCAA for saying, you've let this thing get completely out of control. It was probably some pent-up frustration in a lot of areas that caused that, because that's not his nature to do something like that.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. By the time, everybody built this up, by the time SEC media days were coming, it was going to be, here's going to be Saban and Jimbo. By the time they got there, you would think that both of them were the president of each other's fan club. They didn't bring it up at all. But it will sell a lot of tickets for the game in October. That's for sure.
Oh my goodness. You won't be able to get one of those.
I love it. Well, let's just start at Alabama, because it's one that's out there, but you got a lot of other players, and we'll stick with NIL for just a little bit. The NCAA did such a terrible job. I mean, they fought it all the way to the Supreme Court, and everybody telling them, you're probably going to lose this. This is just, they kept fighting. College presidents, though, and athletic directors were encouraging it. They lost, but they had no plan B. And now you've got Bryce Young at Alabama is making over $1 million a year in NIL partnerships. You've got kids. I mean, how can you not say this is, I mean, it's not pro ball. I mean, it is not pro ball. It is pro ball now. Number two, this plays into, used to when you were coaching, like if I was one of your big alumni, it was a wink, wink, nod, nod. I couldn't supposed to have any dealing with a player. Now I can have my NIL set up and I can offer them, say, before they ever get there, say, if you come here, I got $1 million sitting here waiting. I mean, did the NCAA really just legalize cheating?
Yes, that's all it was. They legalized it, and they did it in the name of doing what's right by the players. And I get that to a certain degree, but I've been one of those all along that said, okay, you want to pay the players? Let's put $20,000, $25,000 every year they're there. And when they walk out, they get every one of them, not the quarterback, not the left tackle, not the linebacker, all of them. When they graduate, if they've been there 5 years, they get 5 times whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they got $100,000, $120,000 when they walk out the door. But everybody wants it now. Everybody wants it now. And we're a now society, and I deserve it, and give it to me now. And there's no wait on anything. So it is pro ball. It's just, a different way to do it.
Well, and you just brought up something that's interesting. When we first started here, Coach, that it was, that some of these kids, this will be the most money they ever make playing ball. I mean, because they're not, some of them are not going to get drafted. Even if they do get drafted, they're not going to get picked up on the roster. And that makes it a whole different scenario. And then you throw on the portal, basically the unlimited transfer, anytime I want to. A friend of mine the other day, we were on radio, and he made this comment, and I may have had this right, but out of the 50 top quarterbacks 3 years ago in the ranked quarterbacks going to colleges, it was like 5 of them are still at the school that recruited them.
Yeah, that's the way it works. And you used to be able to have a good quarterback and a good backup, and if one got hurt, then you brought the next one on. I mean, Alabama doing what they did with Jalen Hurts and Tua, it's going to be hard for that to ever happen anywhere again, unless the guy comes out of nowhere.
Right.
Right. He was not a highly touted guy, and he went to school there, and he stayed there because he's loyal or for some other reason, and he's ready to go if the other guy gets hurt. Or if the other guy doesn't play well, or if the other guy leaves, it's hard anymore.
Is this unlimited portal? Because and I want to get back to that quarterback situation, because we're going to start with the University of Georgia here in just a few minutes, and I think they have that problem right now with Stetson and some really stud quarterbacks. I'll be shocked if they ever graduate from the University of Georgia in this current environment. Yeah. But the transfer portal, I don't think it's I'm going to point this out. I'm not sure it's a bad concept. But when you've basically made it a free agency, in other words, I can drop out of the portal, instead of it being, hey, I need to get closer to home, or, I'm in my 5th year. Again, we seem to be going back to a trend here. How is the NCAA just completely asleep at the wheel over these couple of issues?
Well, they don't care about the game. They don't care about the loyalty. They received pressure from the woke community, in my opinion, to allow freedom of choice of everything. That's what they believe in, freedom of choice of everything. And so there are no stipulations for anything. I mean, the PGA Tour has it now with the LIV and the PGA Tour. The same thing's going on. Limiting freedoms is bad in our society now, where it was good for about 200 years and it seemed to work pretty good, but I don't mean to get political, but I do think they succumbed to a lot of pressure and just did the easiest thing, where they don't have to do anything. They don't have to oversee anything. They get money and they don't have to oversee anything.
Well, that brings up really frankly, the next question. And it was, the old saying, if you quit doing the job that you were intended to do, eventually you'll not have a job. So that brings the question. The NCAA, and now that we're seeing and we hadn't even got into the realignment. I mean, with USC, UCLA going to Big 12, blunt question, is the NCAA on its last legs?
In my opinion, yes. I see. Well, let's put it this way. I see that there's going to be probably 40 schools that create their own deal and go off by themselves and get the TV deals. And then the NCAA will rein in all this other stuff and go back to all the other schools, and we'll have NCAA championships and we'll have NCAA regulations. They'll oversee all the smaller schools. But what they were trying to do is to not have, not let somebody be a have and a have not, equalize it, let a kid go anywhere he wanted to go. And what we've done is we've created huge gaps now between haves and the have-nots. And that's going to be the issue going forward, is who is the NCAA actually going to rule over? Because I don't see those big conferences, those super conferences, allowing them to say anything to them anymore.
Well, it's gotten to the point now to where, it's like NCAA is good for the smaller Division I's, the 1A's, and then the others to do the conference championships, even basketball, to handle the conference. But football has just basically seemingly outgrown the NCAA, and they let it outgrow the NCAA.
Well, we all know that the TV contracts are what drives everything conference wise. The Big Ten TV contract, the SEC contract, the ACC and the Big 12 are trying to get together and do something, or the Pac-12 is trying to do something. They're all trying to maneuver themselves to get the best TV packages and entice people to come in. It is, we've got it. It's convoluted so bad right now. Nobody knows what's going to happen and what direction we're going, and everybody's going their own direction right now.
Yeah, and that's not good. I have one in that same conversation. I generated some of the most, and I want your take on this. I generated some of the most interesting comments and conversations when I made the statement that I don't get the attraction with Notre Dame. Everybody talks about Notre Dame. Well, they're going to join this conference, join it. Oh, no, they'll just stay independent. And why NBC pays them this amazing, contract per game to televise games that a lot of times are not the best games of the week anymore. I mean, Notre Dame, since Lou Holtz, and I know this is going to, if you call the Doug Collins, go to the DougCollinsPodcast.com, hit the little email link, send me your stuff, because I know you're out there. When you listen to this, Notre Dame fans are going to go berserk. They've not been good in 25 years. They had 2 times they made the playoffs simply because of Notre Dame, and then it got wiped out. What is the attraction? I'm going to let you try. What is the attraction of Notre Dame? Why does everything seem to go back? Here's everybody else, and here's Notre Dame.
Well, I think it stems back, like you said, 25 years. There's first of all, they did do a great job with their alumni, and their alumni are in some pretty lofty places.
Yep. And
it's a Catholic school, which this country at one point was huge Catholic society. I think it's a lot of history, a lot of following from the Catholic community. I think it's people in high places pushing those types of thought processes that Notre Dame is still Notre Dame, when you and I see it as they're just like everybody else. They ought to get into a conference and decide where they're going to go and what they're going to do, or they're going to get left behind, which I see that happening sooner than later.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing because one of the things, though, is somebody brought this point up the other day that Notre Dame is that NBC had been sort of left out of the college football game when CBS, ESPN, and they felt, and they were saying, well, this is why they're putting so much money in Notre Dame. It gives them they're still into college football to then maybe portray it from there or to double down so they can get
that makes complete sense to me. I mean, and that was smart on Notre Dame to pull the trigger with them and get that big contract with them. And they're the only game in town, on NBC. So it's an interesting dynamic, but I don't see that being a long-term success pattern.
And I can see that. And I think that's the interesting thing. At the end of the day, we're sort of bringing these, but through NIL, through portal, through everything else, it's the SEC, Big 12, Big 10, although they're now much larger. The Big 12 has sort of fell off. The Big 10, ACC. As you said earlier, these are becoming basically the conferences. And if you look at the national titles, if it wasn't for Ohio State, it would just be SEC schools and ACC schools with Clemson. Speaking of which, another friend of yours, I know, and you talk about old school with Saban. Dabo Swinney has been one of the holdouts, at least still seemingly, on this whole NIL portal kind of. He doesn't take kids off. Now, especially since you and I talked about this about a year ago, I think the time has changed now. I don't think Dabo is either going to have to adapt to it, or there's probably going to be some rumblings at Clemson, even with a one-loss season or whatever, because I just think people are now so associated with this issue that the old school mindset is just, it's going to be hard to overcome.
Well, let me tell you, I believe this, Doug. I believe if you win, people don't care how you do it. If he wins, if he only loses one ball game, and losing one ball game will probably get you in the playoff, then that's going to be enough to placate the Clemson people. You win, that people don't care how you do it. The Raiders for years did it always the wrong way, but they won. Right. So nobody cared, Only people.
Oh, you're hitting my Raiders, Chan. You're hitting my Raiders.
Well, I don't know why you're a Raider fan. I have no idea. But
there's always a dark side to everything,
Yeah, I used to tell people the old Raiders are always good for a fight.
There you go. That's how it work. Yeah, I hear that Denver coming out in you there, Coach.
Yes, that's exactly right.
All right. Hey, back to ACC for a minute. ACC did away with the two conferences. Not two conferences, the two divisions. Went to a permanent schedule, 5 permanent, 3 floating, or 3 anyway, I think it's 5 permanent. Some interesting matchups there. Is the ACC still trying to find its identity a little bit back again in football?
Yes. They're trying to be unique, which I get that. They're trying to make sure everybody plays everybody at some point in time during the years, which I'm sure the lesser gate people, the colleges, wanted to be able to bring in some of the bigger people so they could have a bigger gate from time to time. I'm sure there were some discussions, but it goes back again to the money aspect of it. They're trying to be unique so that they can create a niche for themselves in some way, shape, or form, which I get it. You got to be, when we were at the Air Force Academy and Kenny Hatfield was our head coach,
yep. He
said, we got to be unique and better at our uniqueness than other people are. And that's what they're, people that are not up in that upper tier, they're trying to be unique and better at their uniqueness so that you got a chance to compete at the highest level.
Sort of like as you look at like the old BYU teams and others where they were just, the different offense, throw it out everywhere, back in the Steve Young days. All right, let's hit, as we sort of coming, let's hit some football actual where we're seeing things. I brought it up earlier. Love to get your take. Kirby Smart has, has always been a great recruiter. I mean, the teams at Georgia are showing it. Saban, I mean, he comes under that stable from Saban. Saban's a great recruiter. Jimbo Fisher, I mean, recruiting at Texas A&M. You got Kiffin coming in, which is always an adventure. And others, but Georgia right now, a interesting position, quarterback. Let's just start there. Everybody, I had a guy tell me the other day, and I've heard this before, Stetson's going to start, but Stetson will never finish the season. Why is that? Number one, why is Stetson Bennett still not looked at as a championship quarterback? And then with the stable that they've got under him, I mean, they got 3, 4, and 5-star quarterbacks under him. Is this a problem for Kirby? And how do you think Kirby's going to handle it?
Well, you asked 2 or 3 different questions there, and you got to remember you're talking to a football coach who can only basically one question at a time. So why is Stetson not looked at as the championship quarterback? To me, if you don't have the flash statistics, you don't have you weren't recruited high, you don't have the pedigree, so to speak. Mm-hmm. It's hard to take the next step, but he's done everything to take it to the next step. It's just people are hard-headed. They just won't allow themselves to say he can be a great quarterback when you got 5-star guys behind him. Well, I know you do, but the guy, all he did was lead his team to a national championship. Hello. I think that's the name of the game, is to win championships. So the second one is, how much of a problem is it for Kirby? It's a huge problem, but I see him being smart about making sure that those guys get playing time. I can't say those guys. They're going to have to choose 1 or 2 that they think are the guys of the future and make sure they get some playing time and make sure that they are still excited about being around next year. And that's the hard part about playing to win a championship and making sure guys are excited that aren't playing a lot, or they're still excited about being around next year.
Exactly. And with NIL, with the portal, that's making it harder and harder. I heard, could you have imagined that once you got scholarship athletes at your school, like, where you were coaching, that you had to worry, and I've heard coaches say this, that they're having to worry about keeping their team. They're recruiting their own kids again.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know that I talk to a couple of coaches. I get with coaches during the year from time to time, and a lot of them have talked about making sure they recruit closer to home now, because there's more pressure on the young men to stay at that, hometown college, hometown university, make sure they stay at that school. So if you recruit a guy from 3 states over, he's got every school between him and 3 states over to try to go to if he's not happy where he is. But if he's in that home state, he's got a hard time going home and saying, I left, the hometown, the home state university, and all I did was come home, or I'm going over 2 states away to play. That's hard for him to handle at home. So they're going to recruit closer to home.
Close to home, and I think it's going to be the interesting thing with the alumni. It's going to be an interesting fix, and coaches are just having to adjust to this new era. Real quick, let's do a lightning round a little bit, and we'll get more into
one more thing, Doug.
Okay.
It's going to be interesting in the next few years if the alumni that's given, $500,000 to be in this NIL stuff, and he comes over here and says, I want Billy Bob to get a scholarship.
Yeah.
I don't want you to recruit my nephew.
Yeah.
Then what happens? All of a sudden that college coach is in a bind. He's got to waste one of those valuable scholarships on the nephew. And so that's going to be interesting as time goes on.
Oh, that you just brought up a great point, because we've only talked about it now from the aspect of, the just legalized cheating, an alumni going out and saying, I'll give talking to an agent. But now, it was already bad. I mean, you've seen it at Auburn, you've seen it in Georgia, you see it a lot of places, where the alumni have just big footprints. And now this has opened it up a lot for that as well.
Oh, it's going to get, as soon as leverage is created by these large donors, it's going to become even more of a problem than it has been in the past.
Yeah, I can see that, and that's a great point. Thanks for bringing that. All right, let's do a quick run around.
Okay,
we're looking at, of course, Georgia starting off. Most got them in the top 3. Georgia's got a pretty good ball club. They got to rebuild that defense. I mean, that you got to basically was all world last year. Better, or where do you see Georgia just in overall? Do you think back in winning the SEC East, back in the title game? Where do you see Georgia?
Yeah, I think they win the East again. I don't see anybody that can challenge them. And I go back again because of Stetson Bennett. He's not gonna let them lose a game. He probably can't go win a 48-45 shootout, but he's not going to let them lose a game while they're developing all these other facets of their team. And I see them there. I see them getting to the SEC championship. If they're undefeated, then they make it to the playoff, win or lose versus Alabama. If it's Alabama, which I think it will be,
okay.
And then I see the same 2 teams playing for it again this year, to be honest with you.
Could see that. Real quickly, your old school, Florida, on the up or on the down?
They're on the up. I think the new coach is going to bring in a little toughness that they maybe not have had for the last couple of years. I've heard good things, not been down there, not talked to him. I think they're on the upswing, but they can't go not that fast. They can't move that fast to get to the top.
The always not wonder, they've just been struggling. Tennessee, up or down? What do you see?
They're going up again.
Okay.
They'll go up again. I think that guy up there has done a good job. I think they've renewed their what's going on up there. I think they'll go up again. And I think probably them and Florida will fight for that second spot.
Okay. Interesting. As you well know, I mean, me being in politics, being in law, I mean, when you get the folks behind the scenes, it's always an interesting off the camera when you're, equals, maybe coaches or. Could you imagine sitting down with the SEC West coaches with Kiffin, Leach, Jimbo, Saban? I mean,
yeah. There's enough ego in there for a lot of room. You could fill up a lot of rooms, a lot of balloons with those egos.
I imagine. Without getting to Ohio, I don't want to just stick to the South, but I mean, you got Ohio State looking like they've reloaded. Michigan, you still see those coming back? Harbaugh staying was a big shock to many people. Is it still Ohio State, Michigan up there?
Penn State's really a pretty good football team. I see them being in the mix. Michigan State's a tough. If you play them at Michigan State, it is really hard to win over there. So I don't know how the schedules fall, but if they've got the big games at Michigan State, they're going to be a factor. If they don't have the big games at Michigan State, then they probably won't be a factor. But I see it, Ohio, I think it's Ohio State and those other 3 that were just mentioned. That I think that's how it stacks up.
I say that. Couple of last ones here. I mean, the old Pac-12 used to be, when I was growing up, I mean, it was the, SEC, USC, UCLA. It was always just, the big games, had all the running backs, everybody. It's sort of a sad demise. Do you see the USC, UCLA, and then the others that are leaving? Is that a good thing or a bad thing, Chan?
Well, I don't know if I don't know if I have enough information to make that evaluation or to even have an opinion, but I know why they do it. I know why they're doing it because of money. And I know why the Big Ten wanted them because of the TV market.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the Pac-12 is going to be a non-entity in 10 years.
Oh, I think, it's going to be interesting, though, for USC, for UCLA, and a couple of these others, though, when they actually have to go play before real crowds. I think that's going to be an interesting, because they don't have crowds out there right now.
Well, I had somebody this past week, I was with a bunch of college coaches, and they said, how about when UCLA goes the first time to Minnesota in November in the outdoor stadium up there? And they're yelling all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
People they'll be in shock.
Oh, the jump around.
Total shock.
Oh, the jump around at Wisconsin. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, it's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. Last question, off topic a little bit, but not completely, because we've mentioned this before. And you've got some experience, so I tread here. Tua is sort of the Stetson Bennett in many ways down at Miami. It's like every time you turn around, Miami is real quick. Is it just the train wreck that it appears to be sometimes?
Yes.
There's the quote for the podcast. Miami Dolphins train wreck. There we go. I love it. Well, Coach, everybody on the podcast knows this is not. We're just getting started here with Coach this fall. We got college now. We're going to come back in a few weeks, do some pro, and then we'll just catch up through the time. Great insight for those of you who are wondering about NIL and the portal and how it's affected college football. Coach, it's always great to be with you. We'll look forward to many more times. Go out and for the folks on the podcast, you're one of our favorites. We appreciate you a bunch.
You're very kind. Thank you, Doug. Take care, buddy.
All right, folks, Doug Collins Podcast. If you want to know more about the podcast, always the DougCollinsPodcast.com. There's a link there for email. Send me your questions, comments. If you got a question for Coach, let me know. I'll send it along to him. Next time we get together, we'll answer those questions. But for now, make sure you're downloading. Make sure you're sharing it. Look for us on social media at Rep Doug Collins. You can get us out there. Football's right around the corner. We're excited about it. And this is just the kickoff. Thanks again to Coach Chan Gailey. We'll see you again on the Doug Collins Podcast. Hey, everybody, MyPillow, I just wanted to let you know, MyPillow is having the biggest sheet sale of the year. You'll have to help. You have all helped build MyPillow into an amazing company that it is today. And now Mike Lindell, the inventor and CEO, wants to give back exclusively to his listeners. The Percal bed sheet set is available in a variety of colors and sizes, and they're all on sale. For example, the queen size is regularly priced at $89.98, but it is now only $39.98 with our listener promo code. Order now because when they're gone, they're gone. You're not going to be able to get it. These Percal sheets are breathable. They have cool, crisp feel. They come with a 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. Don't miss out on this incredible offer. There's a limited supply, so be sure to order now. Call 1-800-986-3994. Use the promo code Collins, COLLINS, or you can go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use the promo code Collins, COLLINS. Lisa and I sleep on these sheets every night. You will want to have them as well. They're a wonderful product. Go right now, either 800-986-3994, code word Collins, or go to mypillow.com. Also use the code word Collins to get this discount. You will not regret it.